moved to.
And what is that, 75?
75,000, I
Yeah.
think.
And I got the signature page here for the permit app, so that's ready to go. I've got everything changed. I'm gonna make sure when I send it back in, just outline like, hey, this is just a different one, all the limits are the same, spell out the differences, but essentially everything's pretty much exactly the same, so I hope they don't have any issues getting a permit, but I think made us resubmit as a new application, so, but it's ready to go. Now I got the signature page, I'll get that out then. For the Boston markets, that metering sampling manhole, that is in, they paved around and everything, so contractor asked for payment, which was $9,750, that was the quote. I was talking to Rob a little bit about that. I don't know the exact process of this being in the escrow. I guess we probably have to request a release for that amount, and we were just saying we would probably wanna at least keep a maintenance amount in that escrow, but I'm assuming there's still, I believe after paying this, cause they put a lot up, I think there's
Yeah.
still.
The good part is it was a cash escrow and it wasn't clean or whatever.
Right, I think even after paying this, I'm sure it's well
We
over
had
15%, I would think.
34.5 is what we received. So, yeah,
Yeah,
They'll
if
still
that
be-
were a letter of credit,
Yeah, with
we'd
the
go
bills.
through all kinds of hoops to get that.
So after, I guess, paying for our bill and the contractor's bill, it would still be 20-some thousand then.
So that bill is in to pay tonight. There's a check
Yeah.
made for that. Now, I just charged it to the escrows instead of charging it to lines, maintenance and repairs. I charged it right to escrows.
I think that's probably appropriate, yeah.
So, yeah.
So
And then
yeah,
we'll take the money out, transfer the money from the escrow account into the operating to pay it.
So the only other issue is, do you want to simply let the 25 there as maintenance, and I'm using
How much
ballpark
should we
25?
keep as maintenance? Cause, I mean, there's no point in us holding on to that money. We can release
just-
any of it.
typically we do 15%. Now, I don't know with this one being a little bit different, if we would wanna keep something just so if something was discovered. I
Yeah,
don't know, this isn't the normal.
it's not tested, used,
Right,
anything
right,
yet,
there's nobody, yeah.
So,
but if it's beyond that 15%, we could return that portion.
right, just think if it knocks it down to 25, even if you kept 10, that's what the cost to put it in was, and then if they wanted to, I guess, question it more, then maybe you release it down more.
I've had no inquiries whatsoever. We entered into this municipal improvements agreement in March of 22. I've never had one person inquire as to the status of those escrow funds.
Well, remember it got sold after
Right.
they gave it to us, so it's actually someone else's money now, right?
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. So Rohan Properties LLC was who entered into the municipal improvements agreement and posted the escrow. The current owner is Rubra Properties LLC, different mailing address. So yes, so I think it was sold from Rohan to Rubra. I'll have to go back more thoroughly through the file, but my recollection is part of the sale was the assignment of the rights to the escrow to the new owner.
I think so, I
Yeah.
remember that, yeah.
But I'll flesh that out and confirm that, so we just need a number really of what you wanna hold.
Let's talk somebody into knocking down that place of Burger King, putting up a nice new restaurant. A real restaurant,
Yeah,
not a bigger Taco Bell.
No. Let's get a Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A could take up the whole thing.
Let's get Chick-fil-A. And then you could take Burger King and Boston Market.
That's what, yeah,
Because they're gonna need all that space.
they're gonna need the triple drive-throughs, that's right.
Okay.
So I guess, I just wanna make make sure, do we need a motion to approve the payment and the escrow release as one, is it separate, or how do we need, I guess it's
I
a
would,
little different.
yeah, I would probably do them separately.
Do we want to wait on the escrow release until we can confirm that it's going to the new owner?
You certainly may defer that to next month, that's fine, if you wanna table the release of any other funds and what you're gonna hold as a balance, yeah, and that'll give me time. And what, I'm also gonna write to the tenant's attorney in Pottsville to tell her that it's been completed, and I may even ask, does she have any idea if the business is gonna restart? Because we're gonna hold an escrow to make sure that that the system works.
Well, we have X dollars, who did the actual digging and putting in the manhole?
M and S,
M&A excavating,
Oh, M&A.
who did that.
Was.
That's who the bill for $97.50 is for.
That should be paid.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Isn't
Yes.
fair to make those guys.
No, no,
Right.
no, not at all, no.
So if you need a motion, I would make a motion to pay that excavating bill.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I'll report back on the other,
For the escrow,
next meeting.
okay.
Alright, for the small water and sewer grant application, I know they did have a meeting today. I saw online they did post that there were some grants issued, but I noticed it says like excluded the H2O grant, which went in the same time as the small water sewer. What I could see online, nothing looked like it really fell in the dollar range for the small water sewer, so I don't know if they just didn't post it yet or if they didn't take action on it. So it's possible that something happened with that either way, if it's,
We might not hear anything till
if
next
they
month.
didn't, if they didn't actually take action on that, I don't know when their next meeting is for sure, if they might do it, so.
They don't know when it is.
Right, yeah, well,
Oh, man.
I gotta say, at some point, I know that was tied to the ARPA money, and theory, I think it had to be, was supposed to be spent by the end of 26, I believe, or 25.
yeah,
So at some point, if they don't get moving, I guess they'd have to probably extend the time to spend it, but who knows exactly what's going on with that, so. In the other, now we have 3 resolutions for the LSA grants that we were applying for. Those have to be submitted by the end of the month. We were submitting for 3 different ones. The one was a van that would be equipped with a camera, and all the accessories, so staff, Joe and everybody could do their own televising and stuff. That one. Resolutions here. Or is it, do you have those in the packets and these?
no, but I copied
Okay.
those.
Just get the
I have the
number.
resolutions.
Okay, so the resolution for the sewer televising van is $340,071.25. These ones, if you get them, have no match, so that would, in theory, you would get hopefully the whole amount and cover that one. So that was one of the resolutions. There's one, we were looking at a new truck for the operators that would have a body crane hoist lift bed that would allow them to go around, pull pumps, if they have to pull stuff, drop it in and out of manholes, whatever, give them that ability. The estimate we had for that, the resolution amount for that one is $137,351.95. And the third one we were doing is for the new influent pumps. Joe had some prices on that. We were looking at some fine screens and grit removal equipment, which we have prices on the equipment. I was gonna make the request that we would approve this one. The max amount for the grant is $1 million. I'm trying to get confirmation from the grant agency, if we were to buy, say, the fine screens and that puts the project over $1 million, does that get you kicked out right away, would you just be responsible for the difference? Or if you got a chunk of the money and not all of it, are you obligated to do everything you list in there? So I don't wanna put a bunch of stuff in there. If you were expecting, if we're gonna do this, we get $1 million, get 100,000, and now you're stuck doing all this other stuff, so. I know the pumps for sure are gonna need it, probably, we were thinking 25, and I know they said this probably wouldn't get awarded till late 24. So we at least wanna do the pumps, we're gonna double check some numbers, hopefully I can get clarification here pretty quick. We'll adjust the amount, but we were gonna look to just do a resolution approved up to the max amount, and once we know for sure what we'll do, and we'll put the appropriate amount in.
You said the pump station was 25.
That's when we were looking at doing it, would be.
Those
25.
lifespans of those raw pumps in there, there's 2 Gorman Rough pumps. So,
So you need a motion to,
We would need a motion for these three, I don't, we need a separate one for each one, or can we
No.
do motions
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
3 resolutions?
I make the motion to submit the 3 resolutions for the LSA grant.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Morgantown Road Commercial I have on here. The plans have been okay for sewer for a while. I know they had submitted stuff to water and it seemed like they were moving to get going. I had reached out. We had received updated plans last month for water. I had reached out after the last sewer meeting and said, if you wanna move forward, we need agreements, escrows, numbers, etc. I didn't get any response from them.
I had no contact either.
And I know, just on the side note, from Water's end, they had revisions and stuff they needed to make. I haven't got any feedback on any of that either, so. At this point, whenever they get the stuff in, it'll move forward. It's not on us, it's kind of on
Yeah.
them, so. That's that stuff across from McDonald's over there. And then the other stuff I had was the draft, budget for 24. There's a copy of that in the packet, and we went over a bunch of stuff last week. Most of the items we kept pretty similar to what they were. We did add a new line item towards the back. We sort of broke out some capital improvement projects on the bottom of the second page. You see down under on the second page, other income expenses, the SPR stainless steel project that we've been talking about with the 210,000. In the UV construction, we were figuring the remaining portion for next year would be 152. So we put those as separate items just because we had talked about doing on the treasurer's report, maybe putting it on the back page where all the different revenues are. But we were talking about putting it there, but for the budget, I just put it down at the bottom there. So,
That's good enough for the time.
most of the other stuff, we just kind of kept, we made some minor revisions for wages, chemicals, electric, some travel, different things. I will say on this, I need to get this says 2022 actual numbers. I couldn't find the treasurer's report to have the actual numbers for the 22, so those are still approximate. But the 23 projections were based on everything up to October. So we kind of used that budget stuff we had so far to date for that. And then the 23 budget column, what the budget was for this year, and then the column on the right, 24 is the projections for 24. The way I have it in there now, like I said, we kept, I know we had some discussions about like plant maintenance and repair. We kept it, for this one, I kept it at 325. I know there was some discussions of probably lower it a little bit. I kept it there for now, just to show it. I figured we could make changes for next month before we approve if we did wanna drop that. Like I said, most of the other stuff wasn't a lot of changes. Plant wages with having all 3 employees full-time now, that's where you see the big jump in that. I know there's some revisions, everybody will be on the retirement program next year, so we took that into account, and payroll taxes, et cetera, so. Most of the other stuff is pretty much the same. I know some of the new equipment was a bigger one that we up just, obviously we've been running into now. We've been seeing a lot more stuff that needed replaced, whatever too, so some of the new equipment one, that's the reason that one was put up a little bit more as well, and plus, I think that catches most of the stuff on Joe's one list.
Yes.
That's in here.
If you want me to go through that, I can.
Well, for the benefit of the people that weren't at that meeting.
Yeah, I'll run through it quickly. Are you good, Eric? Is there anything
Yeah,
else you
no,
want to
you
talk
got it,
about?
I can jump in if I need to.
Okay. So, going back to the operator's report, so attached is what I have a decent idea of what I wanna get accomplished moving forward, going into
Back
2024.
page of this one.
So,
You had to hit wish list.
So the wish list items is what we're applying for the grant, so your service truck, your sewer main camera, and then the influent pump station upgrade, which that is probably the only, one of the oldest building up there that hasn't had any upgrades for probably a good 10 years, 10, 15 years. So that, just to keep that in the back of your mind. Going down major projects of 2024, depending how these grants are, that's why I didn't push the stainless steel project, because we're waiting on these grants. But in 2024, I'm planning to get those, both SBR basins upgraded stainless steel, along with those, get those both cleaned out. UV upgrade, that's how much once we get the prints, we'll owe that another 75,000, so that'll put us at 152,000 for this year on that UV project. Post DQ pumps, VFDs, and labor. The VFDs were already approved, they were already ordered, they'll be here, I think, February. PLC program for VFD, so that'll be aqua aerobics, programming those VFDs that are on order.
That's also approved, right?
Yes. Yeah. Then the next big item there is your centrifuge. So that centrifuge is coming up on its
Schedule maintenance.
2019? Yeah, so, yeah, that schedule, it was installed in 2018, right?
18, 19, I'm not
Yeah.
sure, I would think maybe 18.
I was thinking probably, 17 or 18, I would say.
Yeah.
So this year was, the year for them to come out and do a complete service since it's spinning 3,400 RPMs. This was their year of service, and I decided I'd push them to next year, so I'm planning for it. At 15,000 is high. I quoted, what's the worst case scenario? And that's the number they gave us.
Are we gonna avoid any warranties by pushing it another year?
No, nope. So that's on the high end. It probably won't be that much, but just leave some cushion in there. Finish the lighting exterior. That's Lou's favorite project.
Well, this is the exterior though. The interior is not.
Interior, yeah, so
Did we-
filter, your blower building, filter building,
This is the
garage
interior stuff.
done.
This is the
No,
stuff.
this is the exterior now. We're done
This
the
section-
interior that Dory
No, we're
started.
not done yet.
No, we're not done the interior.
Ah.
Yeah, we got the
See, you
decanter.
can stand in the heart right
Yeah,
there.
decanter building and the garage number 2 over there on that diagram.
Mhm.
We're gonna tackle that in-house, we're not gonna contract that out.
It's only been a year and a half, or 2 years. Why are you so excited about not getting any light bulbs changed?
I used to work for. a
You're saying
light
Mrs.
company.
Gable's never asked you to do something twice?
Were we able to apply for those,
I
as
thought
a
you were
PPL
getting-
grants? or whatever?
Once it's done,
Oh,
As soon as the project's done,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
be
what it
able to
was.
submit it, right?
okay.
Nate is your favorite.
So that 32,000 includes those two buildings and the exterior lighting. So, those are the big major items. So, going down to your minor projects, you see that automatic gate, I gave you guys the wrong price last month. It's actually 18,000 instead of, I think I asked for 8 or
Yeah.
something.
Ha,
Yep,
ha, ha,
yep.
caught you again.
Right. Wet well clean out. I'm gonna wait till the SBRs are drained. It only makes sense because all that grit from the SBRs are gonna go down to the wet well. So we'll wait on that. All those pump controls, getting those upgraded, your float controls. Right now it's a bubbler system, slightly outdated, a little bit unreliable. Our wet well level stays in between 3.2 and 3.4, and that's definitely not the case. Definitely fluctuates a little more than that. Getting spare pumps, disc filter media replacements on there. That's I threw that on there because we're going to be using all our filter media this year, but that lasts for 15 years. So I threw it on there. If we have room left over at the end of the year and we want to go through with it, we do it. But if not, no big deal. Because things only get expensive the more you push them out. So, and then on the right hand side are all other items that I have planned out. So those two magic numbers in the middle, the $362,270. I'm calling those capital improvements. I didn't want them to skew my maintenance and repair budget for this year. So that was the whole idea of pulling them out and making them separate lines. Because as you can see, so far the calculated, with what I have calculated, is 174,000. But keeping it 325 gives me that buffer room. It's a budget, it's a guideline. I don't need to spend $325,000. But it has that enough room to get some odd and end projects done there on the right, like changing out all the exterior outlets, because they're all open to the elements, and the plastic's just getting fragile and breaking. There's no water access on top of the tank, so when you go to hose something down, you have to run a hose from below the tanks and run a 100-foot hose all the way to the top. So, replacing grates. So you go down to the wet well and the grates flex a good couple inches, so you just don't step on them, you walk around them. So that's something I want to work on.
That sounds like a safety problem.
It's a big project because you can't just take a grinder down into a wet well and start grinding. So there's not enough grading down there to be concerned. You can avoid the grates. So we're good. It's
Is there a
locked
sign at the
building.
entrance that says
Yeah,
avoid the grates?
yeah, you're not allowed in there. It's confined space.
Okay.
So that's ventilation in the decanter building needs improvement on that. Whether we change out a fan and fix the louvers. Sand pit needs to be dug out. So that's where Cawley, when they were here, they were dumping their grit and rags from when they would pump out the wet well
Into the sand.
into the sand pit. That's what a sand pit's for. It drains back to the head of the plant for water, so you're not getting charged that waterfall cost.
It was an old reed bed years ago with the old plant, and I think it was kept in or it was done. That way, if you do need to drain a tank or whatever too, you can dump the grit there, let it drain and dry out, and then at least I think Joe was doing testing, he said as well. Then what you take from there to the landfill, you got the water out of it at least. You can leave it kind of dry in the sun, and then at least you're not paying for water per se to go to the landfill or whatever too, and gives you a little more flexibility if you gotta drain a tank, so.
And then jumping down to that bottom corner, collection system, so complete GIS of the collection system. So that came in around 15,000. There was a nice calculation that he gave us. How many pins do you want dropped, and add 500 to this or whatever, and that's what that calculation spit out. Jetting and televising, approximately 10,000 feet, so since we had that issues on our right of way going up through Morgan, that's gonna be hit this year, along with Mass Road and along down from Main Street across from Gideon King. That's why we're focusing on locating those manholes. If we're getting off-road equipment in here, we might as well go off-road.
Didn't you do that section like 2 years back?
Mass Road was done, I think.
Mass Road was hit.
I think so. I think John did that one year.
That would've been like 3 years something.
I think he did it.
I thought so too, cause I remember getting access, they had to, have somebody go back and clear the brush along the creek there.
Was it that he was planning on doing it and we had to clear out the brush in order to get access?
But they did it, is what I thought.
I thought they did it.
I couldn't
We
walk back
did
there.
below Mulberry that one time, where
Right,
there was a
they-
lot
they
of
had to
water
clean.
sitting in there too, I don't know if that's possible.
We actually cut trees out of the way that we couldn't even wrap our hands around. Down
Okay,
Back Mass Road. That's why I thought it wasn't done.
I thought he had,
Oh, that, the section between between Mill and Mass, that was never cleared up. You're the first one that cleared that up.
Okay, but I didn't know if it was jetted or televised. Is that
Oh, I don't know about that.
okay?
Denise, could you pull the
I can
bills?
look. I can check.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We paid out and then we can confirm.
yeah.
And then I have additional $16,250 set for repairs. I know we ran into that sheets issue this year. So that I asked if that we could get increased from 60 to 65,000. Because we are paying more attention to our collection system. And we've been popping manholes. We popped all the manholes on Main Street. That was a fun endeavor. So we've been doing manhole inspections, popping them open, looking at them, getting measurements.
Did you redirect traffic for that or
No, we were able to do it.
sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I'm pleasantly surprised
It
that
was
nobody was killed.
It was
in
a
that whole
3-man
process.
team, so we had one person directing traffic.
Paul helped you do that. didn't he?
Yeah. So it was all good. Yeah, I can run down. I'll just touch base on. We decreased the chemical line, the chemicals cost from 85 to 60,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Assuming UV goes through, we need less chemical.
Right. And even if we use hypo all year, I don't think we get close to 85,000. I'd like to keep the sludge number the same, even though we're coming in lower. We have 25,000 left over. I'd like to keep that room for when we do basin clean out for the SBRs. Plant materials and supplies, that was an increase in 5,000. So, we're over that by 18. There was no tools there, so that was the big cost on that, getting tools in and getting things that we could use.
That was
the mower,
what is it?
The mower went under new equipment.
okay.
What is it, discovery, we didn't have any tools.
Yeah, that was pretty early on in the history, right?
Yeah, that was early, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to push new equipment up to 60, possibly getting a pickup truck. Because we have 3 guys. I've been using my personal car as a work truck.
And we have a truck in the bay already?
We do, but we have one, and when someone is out doing stuff, that kind of leaves whoever else is stranded. So,
How often do you run across where you jump into a second vehicle like that?
I've been doing it pretty frequently, like runs over to the office, I'll run my personal car so the guys can run out wherever they need to go, if they're going to Lowe's, whether they're checking on the pump station or we're doing manhole inspections. I've been trying to knock out, it just makes sense to let the guys have the truck when they need to go pop manholes and
I don't disagree with you there, I just wondered how often you were.
Yeah. Yeah, probably,
And we only had one person that didn't want it, we did really want to.
so. Yeah, I'll get prices for pickups in the new year.
I gotta say, the one other change too, on the second page, on the other income and expenses, the two down below, there were like the capital improvements numbers. I show a sinking fund transfer to match that amount to cover that work.
362?
Yeah. And with the way everything is on there now, it's like a 52.9 deficit, the way it's shown. So, I left it at there for now. I did drop,
I have to, I'm gonna ask instead of trying to figure it out, I guess I understand that, we could have all talked about it before, but is that 52.9 deficit, was that things that we had capital expenditures for last year that we couldn't get done? We actually carried money forward and spent it extra in '23?
that 52.9 is strictly just looking at what's proposed for next year, without taking into account anything being brought from ahead. That's strictly if you just take the 24 as kind of a standalone.
Yeah, so it's
Number.
taking anything that we approved for this year that actually didn't get paid out. Okay.
The important thing to remember is we have a pretty significant amount of money in the sinking fund. If we run into an issue with one of these things, we can move money from the sinking fund over.
I was gonna say, as far as for the budget for next month, if we don't wanna change any of the line items, we'll need to show an additional 52.9 from the sinking fund, so your budget's at 0. You can't show the deficit. But if you don't, I mean, the other option would be if you wanted to do a rate increase or whatever, but you could change some of the lines or just show an additional sinking fund transfer, but we'd have to be balanced or showing positive for next year's budget, so that's, I just kind of, whatever we went, when we had a meeting the other day, I'm just going through everything, tried to just keep it as close as it worked out to, and once we got all the changes in, we didn't do it right at the meeting, but now we get them in, that's where it's kind of showing it, so there's some ways you can get around that as far as. That's,
Well, we can't print township dollars and cover it?
and I kept the tapping fees just pretty close to what I know of, that's in theory, like the Dunkin' Donuts and the stuff across from McDonald's, you never know what could potentially come in there. But I try not to get too far ahead on that, since you never know what may or may not come in, and the surcharges are projecting to be 270 this year. I just left the budget at 200 because you never know where that's gonna be, I didn't wanna.
Okay.
Are they historically even or not?
What?
Tapping fee, like the income from the tapping fee?
That's kind of up in the air. I think the surcharges are usually fairly consistent, but like, when the casino went in, I mean, that was like 250,000 or something, I think alone, or like 200.
Well, that's not gonna happen again, yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, you never know what comes in, or if something comes in next door here, if they use a lot of water, you could see a pretty significant tapping fee. It's, you never know. I mean, just with what we know of, I mean, I don't think it would happen next year, but if that airport development ever does come in, that's gonna be a lot of residential, but that's, I wouldn't envision that happening next year, but who knows?
Now, Paul had said, he talked to the guy from Phytogenics, and he was looking at building a warehouse here,
Where?
so, right out here.
Out here.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, that would be.
whether or not that's gonna come, who knows? But he would just be storing things, I mean, keeping his products in there, he wouldn't be manufacturing anything.
Well, as long as he doesn't, I guess, you could exempt him from water and sewer hookup if he's not actually hooking up to water or sewer.
Oh, no, he's gonna
Well,
have to.
you gotta do that.
hook up
If you have employees working there, you're gonna have to
Yeah,
set it
he's
up,
gonna have to
Yeah.
hook up the water, he's gonna have to do that.
canteen and restroom.
So I would just say, I guess for my end on the budget, if everybody wants to kind of go through, let Lou or John or Joe know of any revisions, and then one way or the other, however we wanna make up for the deficit we're showing now, just make sure we have it that way for next month for,
Rather
approve the
than,
budget.
rather than get involved in any kind of rate increase or anything like that, I'd just as soon see a movement of money from the sinking fund over to cover.
In this example, I agree.
That's fine, I can do
I
that.
mean, you